Good afternoon, November 18th, 2023. My name is David Knox, and I am a punching bag for multiple system atrophy, or MSA. I want to talk about breathing and swallowing. I want to talk about the throat. You can probably tell my voice is really taken a turn for the worse last 2 days. I would like to blame it on the mowing of grass outside in the front, and I think that's what triggered it. Really bad tremors, so if you bear with me, I'll try my best. I went to the doctor, my neurologist, yesterday and told her, I thought the GI doctors at Mayo Clinic were going to take a look at swallowing, but I guess not. That's something completely different. I've been having troubles with swallowing for quite a few months now. I'd venture to say 4 or 5 months for sure that I know of. And this is, of course, being Saturday afternoon. This past Wednesday night, I was up watching TV like I always do, Netflix, and I about died. And I don't say that lightly. I don't think you ever heard me literally say about died of something. But in context, I was just sitting up on my couch watching TV. No snacking, no eating, no drinking. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I noticed I couldn't swallow. That's not unusual because at nighttime, when I'm laying down for the most part, it's very hard to swallow and I have to sit up. I sit up all the time in my sleep or even when I'm laying down getting ready for bed or getting out of bed. But this one was sitting up and I wasn't able to reenact the swallowing muscles, the movement. On top of that, I wasn't able to breathe. It was, in your throat, like right around here, it was just, I felt a sensation of not moving there because when you swallow and you breathe, you can feel it towards your esophagus, right, where your mouth and your trachea for breathing, your throat meet up. And I went to the neurologist and I told her the same thing. I said I couldn't swallow, but I also couldn't breathe. And I was, I'm not going to exaggerate, probably 30 seconds, and I'm really good at holding my breath, but I was beating on my chest, I was poking at my throat, hitting my throat, trying to get something to go, like if I was choking or something. And finally it went, and I had to lean all the way forward and go on the table and do some weird things, but I got it, while everyone was in bed sleeping, which is even more concerning. And she looks at me and she says, well, the swallowing is common with MSA, but I don't know what that has to do with breathing. And, we don't know everything. I'm sure she's not an ENT or nose throat doctor, specialist, right? She's a neurologist. I mean, great doctor, don't get me wrong. But again, we all don't know everything about every subject. So maybe want to come home today and we'll get up this morning and look at breathing and swallowing. Well, the biggest difference from Parkinson's to MSA is Parkinson's will affect mostly movement issues. There are some other things that can happen, mostly movement related. MSA affects the same thing, but also attacks the central nervous system first and foremost greatly, which is why MSA people have a much shorter lifespan. And in the central nervous system, CNS controls literally your entire body. You're autonomic, everything you do, moving fingers, talking, everything, right? So it got me looking into what happens when you breathe and swallow. And she diagnosed me with, on the spot, I got a test coming up next month for swallowing, but she referred to it as dysphagia, and I've heard of that before. A lot of these terms for MSA start to blend together because they kind of sound alike, they spell alike, and they're used so many times we don't know. But dysphagia refers to as swallowing. So she has that on there, and it's the muscle weakness that impacts the ability to swallow effectively. It says that the consequences of this are really twofold, right? Malnutrition because you can't eat what you're supposed to, which I've switched to a much softer diet, mostly soups, clam chowder, apples, a lot more softer foods than chips and steaks and things like that. I got pork that I got to chew up. But also, it talks about aspiration pneumonia. And I'm like, I've had pneumonia before. Matter of fact, when I was a child, I had pneumonia. I was one of 8 people in the world that had it. It's such a long name. So I don't get really sick. I get pneumonia in my adult life. And aspiration pneumonia is literally when food goes down your trachea for breathing and is in your lung. and creates basically food at the bottom of your lungs and creates problems. Kind of like when you get sick, you get the masses in your lungs, which starts bronchitis and pneumonia too. So they are very common because multiple system atrophy or atrophy, deterioration or overreaction of the way you breathe in the vocal cords starts to affect. So you start to see some people with raspy voices and lower voices like mine is right now. I'm very well spoken. I'm pretty loud. And right now, I think I'm probably at a 4 out of 10 when it comes to speaking right now. So all the tremors and shaking right now is my whole body, but you can notice it with my voice. I mean, I am drinking coffee just for reference, but coffee doesn't make me do that. I switched from Adderall to a generic of Adderall because I can't get Adderall. It's so common. And that medicine doesn't make me shaky anymore. So, you know, the activities I do definitely don't help. And this is what happens when I say I'm worn down. This is like a level 6 or 7 out of 10. This is pretty bad for me, but I'm still trying to get a video while I can still think about it and do it effectively. The stridor is another part of it. So you got your swallowing, you got your stridor. Stridor is that wheezing sound or that the vocal cords, you make that gasping. You see people talking out of nowhere, make these weird high-pitched sounds. They say about 42% of MSA patients have that. I don't have that, not that I know of anyway. I do make some other sounds, but not like that. I'm more like swallowing and saliva, drooling type things. I wouldn't say it was the same at all. It does affect your sleep and also will decrease your blood oxygen levels. I think Daisy from our podcast mentioned that her blood oxygen one day got down to 60 something. I think that was Daisy. And having breathing issues is you can't take in the amount of oxygen you're supposed to. Makes perfect sense, right? So there are some treatments for it. CPAP is one of those things. But looking back with MSA, knowing that you have it, which I got another video about that tomorrow, hopefully, if not today. Knowing what you know now is a very interesting thing because there were nights, random nights, and just like RBD, REM behavior disorder sleeping, that I noticed a while ago. Well, years ago, I started having these spontaneous events at nighttime sleeping where I woke up because I couldn't breathe out of nowhere. I mean, paralyzed throat, and I'm gasping for air. My wife would tell you, I'm running around the house, jumping off the walls, I'm dying, like literally. And it only happened a few times, but looking back, I wonder, was this precursors for MSA? Of the brain deterioration, things like that, right? So you also get lethargical constriction worsened by throat muscle dystonia. So the muscles start to go away and spaz up and you can't speak and can't swallow. So, I was looking at some pictures and, there are some very simple things here. So when you look at just an overview of the mouth, you can see the larynx, the voice box, right in that area is where the air and the throat for swallowing to your stomach, the trachea, they diverge. They go to separate ways, and it's controlled by a flap in the pharynx part. If I'm saying that right, the pharynx part of the throat. And when you look here, they call that the epiglottis. If I'm saying it right, epiglottis. There is a flap that opens and closes. I believe that's what that is. That allows air to go down, not the stomach, but to your lungs, and that allows food to go to your stomach and not to your lungs, right? Vice versa. So you don't get stuff where you're not supposed to after the tongue pushes it back to the back of your throat, right, for swallowing. And that's the part that I was trying to tell the doctor. I felt it without a doubt. That area was where I could move everything from here up. If they're down, you don't feel. This is like cold water or Gatorade. But right there is where it stopped. And the epiglottis is what controls that area. What controls that flap, controlling your breathing versus swallowing, which is controlled by your central nervous system, which MSA hits really hard, really bad. So, you know, again, I'll probably have to go see another specialist for that. But the swallowing test I have coming up, and it's difficult because that event on Wednesday night made me think twice about my life. We're promised a lot of things in this life, and some things we're not. And as much as I'm battling MSA and I'm winning pretty well, I would say, in my opinion, you know, MSA is not ruining my life. It's not running my life. It's not driving me into the ground, to the dirt. I mean, it's taking its course, but that's not ruining me. But not having the ability to breathe or swallow is terrifying. And I've only talked about it like 2 times to my wife and to my doctor. And I got pretty emotional. You didn't really see it in my eyes, but I got emotional inside. And, you know, I'm worried that there will be a day shortly that will, you'll see hear my passing, and it will be because of this. It won't be because of anything else. I can pretty much promise you that. Not for a while anyway. But this swallowing and not breathing, because that flap controlled by your brain shows the nervous system is not working. You can only hold your breath for so long before they got to intubate you, whatever they call that. That's a serious thing for me, and I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting swallowing issues, and I've had those for a while, and I can deal with those. I swallow 2 or 3 times to do whatever I got to do, but I don't like not having control of my throat. That's a whole other story. So, you know, there are treatments for that. Obviously, CPAP is really for nighttime sleep apnea. I heard of I don't know if Daisy spoke about too, Botox injections for the throat. I thought that was more she was talking about pain, um, um, muscle spasms and Charlie horses and things like that, but not fixing swallowing. So, you know, it says here Botox might relieve affected speech and swallowing. So, you know, that's something I'm going to look at in the next month, because that to date was the scariest thing I've encountered with MSA, or outside my father's death. That was the scariest thing I've gone through in my life. So I just wanted to, you know, have a video about how this affects. It's all tied together, and it is, swallowing and breathing is tied together right here in the throat, whether we all know it or we don't. So it's just a flap. That's all it is. And if your brain don't control that flap properly, you choke a lot more. You put stuff where it's not supposed to go, or in some cases you just simply don't breathe and you swallow and you die. You know, especially if they don't work in parallel to each other. That's the same thing with my urinary neurodegenerative bladder, my what do they call it? I'm losing my brain. Literally, neurogenic bladder and my voiding disorder from, you know, pee and poop. That's what that does. If all those muscles and parts of the body don't work in tandem, you got issues. Well, what's more serious than that? Your throat. I'll say your heart and your brain, but your throat. Without your throat, you can't breathe. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Love you guys to death. I appreciate you. If you like what I do, you want to see more, just hit like and subscribe and share it. Again, sharing is absolutely everything to me. I want to make another video also today or tomorrow about answering questions and feedback and comments I got from around the world, including this very wonderful gentleman from Russia, which I had to translate, so I hope it translates well. But I will see you next video, and I love you more than death. Thank you.